I'm about to press record on this podcast episode, my first ever episode of Likes Girls podcast. Is this thing on? Hello and welcome to the first episode of Likes Girls podcast with me, Maddie Tuma. If you're listening, hopefully you are either a longtime follower or you're a new follower, part of the family. Any way you found this podcast, you probably like girls. You're probably a little gay. You're probably a lot gay. Anywhere you fall on that spectrum, hey, so glad to have you here. Let's kick things off by catching y'all up. I just left my seventh Fletcher concert. If you're new here, you may not know, but I have spent the last 4 months abroad in Europe. I typically live in New York or in Florida, somewhere in the US, but the last 4 months I've actually been abroad. And the last 2 months I have spent a lot of that time following Fletcher across her European world tour. So I started in Madrid. I had tickets to just the Madrid show, and I had probably the best time of my life. So I decided, let's keep these good vibes going. What other cities can I see Fletcher in? And actually, it ended up being one of the best decisions of my life because I was dying to go on a solo European adventure, and what better way to do that than to follow one of your favorite artists on tour. So after Madrid, I went to see her Stockholm, Sweden show. From there, I went to Copenhagen, Denmark, which was amazing. And then I went to Berlin, Germany, which probably, spoiler alert, was actually my favorite show because the crowd's energy was just unreal. And, 4 shows just simply wasn't enough. So this past week, I went to both of her shows in London. Tonight, I went to her first Dublin show, and tomorrow I will be going to her last Dublin show, which is the last show on this European tour. So it is safe to say I have reached groupie status for Fletcher. And yeah, let's talk about why I decided to do that. But also let's talk about why I decided to freaking start this podcast today. As I was watching this show tonight, I got this surge of just creative energy. And my people with ADHD will understand this. When it's normal business hours, I swear to you, I'm exhausted. I don't have one creative thought in my brain. Barely anything is computing. But then when I'm doing something that I am having the best time and something that I'm genuinely happy at, all of a sudden I have every creative idea I've ever had in my brain. And this kind of happened to me at the start of this second solo leg of this tour when my first day was in Lisbon on this trip. And I literally was on the bus from the airport to my hotel, and I was writing furiously in my notes because I had all these ideas about how I really want to launch this podcast. And I've been dreaming of doing this for a while, but I just never did because another thing I struggle with having ADHD is procrastination. I've pretty much struggled with procrastination my whole entire life. And if there's one thing I could change about myself, I love myself deeply, fully, but if there was one thing I could change about myself, it would be my procrastination habits because I have all these thoughts in my brain and I very rarely am able to fully execute on the things I want to do. So all that to say, tonight when I was at the Fletcher show, I literally was just so inspired, not only by her music, but just genuinely by her creative energy and who Carrie Fletcher is as a person. Like, I just think she has this aura about her, this very much I don't give a fuck attitude, this is who I am, this is my music, these are my songs, and so many queer women across the globe, which I have clearly seen, love her and match her energy. So I just had this surge of creative energy while I was in the crowd, and I was just like, I don't care what I'm doing. I don't care what time it is. I don't care what I have to do tomorrow. I am going back to my hotel after this, and I am filming and recording the first episode of this podcast because tomorrow never comes. Today is the day, and I'm excited. I've been wanting to really create a platform for myself. Obviously, I have Instagram and TikTok, which if you follow me there, hey, love you, what's up? But I kind of struggle with feeling connected on those platforms, because my content sometimes feels very random. It sometimes feels like I just need to post something to post. And I miss that connection piece. And that, when I first started social media, connection and community was the driving force behind all of it. That was really my main purpose for starting, was to build a community. And that was, 4 years ago at this point. So I've been fortunate enough to have my community evolve completely. I wasn't even out when I first started posting online. I didn't even know I was a lesbian back in 2020. Okay, I did not know that I was gay. I literally thought I was straight in 2020. LOL. Fast forward to future Maddie, you are as gay as they come. But, and I wouldn't have it any other way. But it took me years to understand that. And I think I'm still evolving as a person 100%. And I'm still figuring out my identities. But in terms of like my community online, me coming out and proudly saying, yes, I'm a lesbian. I love myself anyway. This is who I am. This is who I love. That's allowed me to build such a beautiful, authentic audience online. And like, I just want to dive so deeply into that. Like I could cry, honestly, when I really truly think about how special it is to me to have this community of not only queer women, but plus size queer women. And when I truly think about my why and my purpose, that's my why, is that I see such little representation online, in the media, in general. I see such little representation for plus size queer people. Nowadays there is a lot of representation when it comes to queer people in general, but you're always seeing, that focus on, smaller, thinner bodies. When you really think about even Fletcher, for example, I love Fletcher. I literally love her. But she is a skinny person. And, listen, disclaimer, because I don't want to get anything twisted. I totally understand that all body types, not just big people, struggle with body image issues. So this is not to take away anything of smaller people or thinner people, skinny people, because I know some of y'all on TikTok love to clock me for, I guess, erasing the skinny experience. But, I can only speak from my heart and from my life. And I've been big my entire life. Since I was a kid, I've always been the big girl, the plus size one, the fat one. I've always, people around me love to tell me that I was the big one. And I own that now. It took me years of my life, but now I own that. And that's part of who I am, But when you really look at who we have in the media representing queer people, even the influencers I follow, even the influencers I love to follow, they're all thin. They're all small people, and that doesn't make them any less of an amazing representation for me. Of course, I still love them and look up to them. We'll get into that. But, I really feel this purpose and this drive in my soul to put myself out there and connect with you all, because I know that there's a lack of representation in the plus size queer community. So if you're a big bitch and you love girls, this is just especially for you. And just know that I'm here for you. I get it. This community really is for us. I'm just excited to really just play around with this platform. This is my first time ever recording a solo podcast. So yeah, on the note of plus size queer representation, I just want to take a minute and just say thank you so much. If you're listening to this, whether you've been following me for years, or whether you're a new follower, or whether you literally have no idea who I am and you just clicked on this, or whether, I don't know, whether you don't even like me, I just want to say thank you so much for supporting me and for giving me this platform and for letting this be my life. I mean, let's circle back to just the fact that I'm 26 years old and I work for myself. I work completely independently. And that has allowed me the opportunity to spend the last 4 months of my life abroad, in Europe, traveling, doing whatever I want to do. Like, heavy on the whatever I want to do. And that is just the absolute privilege of my life. I know how lucky I am and how privileged I am that this is my life that is not wasted on me, trust. Because I see, most of my friends my age obviously have normal, quote unquote, normal jobs where they have to go be somewhere, from 9 to 5 every day, which is great. That works for them. But I completely just feel like I'm the luckiest girl in the world to be able to really just, my time is my own. And, I get to live this life like what other job would allow me to travel the world and literally follow one of my favorite artists on tour. So I just want to take a minute to truly just express my gratitude to you all, because your support allows me to do that, and that never goes unnoticed for me. I have always said that from day one, that this community and your support literally means the world to me. I could not do this without y'all, so love you, thank you. I'm so happy we're here together. And on that note, I have been a content creator for literally 4 or 5 years now. Like, I started in 2020, and we're basically midway through 2024, and I have been so many different versions of myself online. I feel like I've evolved and shifted so much. I mean, I literally have. I wasn't, like I mentioned, when I first started as a content creator, I was sharing my dating stories about men. Like, I had all these tragic dating stories all surrounding men, and now I look back and I'm like, bitch, why do you think they were so awful? Why do you think you had a horrible time dating men? Because you're gay. Like, if I could just go back in time and look at myself and be like, Maddie, the reason you have awful dating experiences with men is because you should be dating women. Like, that is literally, there's nothing wrong with you, you're just gay. Like, the way I thought that, we'll get into all this, but the way I thought that I literally was so unlovable and like so tragic, like I would never be loved by a man, guess what, is because I'm a fucking lesbian and I never wanted to be loved by a man. Anyway, that's a whole other topic we will dive into, but the point of what I was gonna say was, with my TikTok and Instagram, I feel like I put a lot of content out there, but there is still so much that I want to tell you guys. Like, I have so many thoughts and so many ideas and things I want to share, but I feel like I don't have a platform to share those things with you, because Instagram and TikTok can get so oversaturated, so bogged down. Also, people can be really fucking mean, honestly. So sometimes when I do share my opinions, and I'll get just like a bunch of like fat phobic comments, because TikTok and Instagram, all of that content is based on how I look. Like, I'm always sharing fashion content, I'm sharing what I'm doing, like it's always focused on what I look like, which, I mean, slay boots, like I'm so hot, but it really like it opens up the floor for people's opinions. And I'm very fortunate that majority of the comments I receive are positive, but every single day I receive comments that are also negative. So basically, I'm trying to create a platform for myself that has nothing to do with what I look like, okay? And this voice of an angel here is really really what y'all are gonna obviously want to hear. So, and if you're watching on YouTube right now, you know even further that this is a very much DIY, back to basics setup. I literally have my phone propped up on a mirror. We're using the front cam and my selfie light, and we are in my hotel room. Like, it is very, very low production quality here, but like I told you, I am really trying to get past this whole procrastinator thing and this need for everything to be perfect before I start. Starting is never going to be perfect. You're never going to be perfect at the beginning. You'll probably never be perfect, but also like you can't get better until you start somewhere. So if you're watching this on YouTube, just know that this is the production quality we're working with here. I still look kind of cute, low key. But I promise we will get better, and I will get a microphone and I will figure out how to do this. I'm literally recording into my phone right now. I hope it sounds good. I feel like it's going well. What do y'all think? Let me know. Let's talk about too what this podcast is going to be. So essentially, this Likes Girls podcast is really just going to be me spreading the queer agenda and talking about my life, my dating antics, my life as a plus size lesbian. Like, it's really interesting up in here, and I feel like I have so much to share. Y'all will be getting the exclusive tea, all right? And this is not going to be a drama podcast. This is not going to be like where I freaking tell you all my secrets, because listen, I'm gonna be real with y'all. I've learned that lesson in the past. If you've been following me for a long time, you know that I used to share everything about my dating life. One, because it was about men and I did not give a fuck about what those men thought or had to say or felt. But then once I started dating girls, it became much, much harder to have that transparency online that I used to have. Mostly, one, because those girls were following me, like, we're friends, you know, girls, the girls that I was dating usually followed me, whereas the guys that I was seeing, like, they didn't, you know, we never even got to that point where we would follow each other, so it's not like I cared. But the girls that I date, you know, 90% of the time, they're following me on Instagram. So if I do post anything, like, one, they're gonna see it, and two, it's gotten me in some trouble. Like, we can dive into that in a later episode, but I have definitely hurt some girls' feelings by sharing my point of view on my dating life online. Personally, I feel like I've never shared anything like too out of pocket or too personal, but that's my point of view. You know, I can't change how someone else perceives it or views it. And I mean, I get it. Like, would I really feel great about the girl I'm dating posting a story time about whatever we did, even if it was positive? Like, I could understand where that's a little weird. So anyway, so I have learned that lesson, that you got to be really careful about the dating topics online. And if you do care about somebody, you really, really got to keep it offline. So all of the stories I will be telling you are essentially stories that don't matter and just funny for the bit stories, because yes, shocker, even though I'm dating girls, it's still just as fucking chaotic and tragic. But we will get into that. I will give y'all a whole update on what was it like dating in Madrid. I literally moved to Madrid with the intentions of dating people. I went on like 4 first dates, some good, some bad. I then got exhausted. I was like, I never want to meet a new girl again. And I kind of took a break, but I would say I've been dating Fletcher at this point. I mean, I have to pay to see her on all of our dates, but that's fine. I would happily pay to go on a date with Fletcher. Now that we've got a little bit of that housekeeping out of the way of what this podcast is going to be about, who I am, who you are, what we are, I want to really dive in to recapping my Fletcher shows. So if you follow me, I hope you're a fan of Fletcher. If you're not already a fan of Fletcher, get on it, okay? If you're gay and not a fan of Fletcher, girl, what is you doing? I feel like that's very rare. I feel like literally 99% of queer women are obsessed with Fletcher. So really, I think we've already got that squared away. But I wanted to really talk about my Fletcher shows and just how much fun I had at all of them, and also the reason why I decided to go to so many of them. So like I mentioned, queer representation is super important to me, and like, especially since I stopped dating men and started dating women, you know, almost 2 years ago, basically, my biggest like thing that's helped me is really de-centering men. Like, I don't even mean that as like a men hating type of way, but I really just mean it as like, I don't want to be in straight spaces. Like, really, ever. Like, if I can avoid a straight space, I will. And yes, that does pose some issues with me with some of my friends who obviously are straight and, you know, they want to go out to a straight club. I have learned to say no. Like, at my prime age of 26, like, I am only going places that I want to be. You know, I spent my entire college and undergrad career thinking I was straight. So all of those years, all of those formative years were spent centering men, you know? And like, how fucking awful is that? Like, what a waste of my goddamn time. And I could have saved myself so much trauma, so much freaking just suffering, really. I could have had such a better time if I had known that I was queer and I could have put myself in queer spaces. We can definitely do a whole podcast episode of like how I knew I was gay, what did that look like for me transitioning from straight dating to queer dating. You know, I went to a huge party school. I went to Florida State University, and majority of that experience for me, of my collegiate experience, was just like very much centered around the partying aspect of college, and I think back to the nights I would go out, and there was just so much pressure, especially being plus size. Like, I just always felt like, this black sheep of like, wow, none of these men like me. I don't even like any of these men, basically. But in college, you just feel like you need to be like out and meeting people and all that and partying. Like, there's so much pressure to do that in college. So I had those 4 years. Then I moved to New York, loving my life, but still, only dating men. But then the pandemic happened. And then after the pandemic was when I really, realized. First, I thought I was bi. And then I, started to shift more towards, okay, I'm just gay. But we can, again, get into all that in a specific episode. But my point of saying this was like, a lot of my youth, actually all of my youth up until like I was 24. So the last 2 years, like those first 24 years of my life were spent, centered around dating men. And it was never good. It was never healthy. It was never positive for me. So I feel like I'm born again, essentially. I feel like I'm a kid. I feel like I'm back in high school, exploring my sexuality, figuring out who I am. What I wouldn't give to go back in time and tell my high school self that I was queer. Because I just think, what could that have been like? What journey would that have taken me on? I struggled so much with insecurity and body image, and just I had such little confidence in high school. And I wish I could go back and tell myself, you're queer, own it, like be that, and maybe that could have helped me find my confidence earlier on, because I just, like I said, I always felt like there was something wrong with me. Like, men made me so uncomfortable, and I was just like, what is wrong with me? Guess what, babe? You're gay. So I just wish that I had known that earlier in life. But you know what? I can't turn back time. It's fine. 24 is really not an old age to figure out, your sexuality. And I've spent the last 2 years having so much fun dating girls and putting myself in queer spaces. That was the whole point of this spiel, was to say that it is so, so, so important to me to be in queer spaces and to be surrounded by queers and allies. Like, if you are not queer and if you are not an ally, you're really not in my life. And I mean that wholeheartedly. Obviously, I still do some things that are not in 100% queer spaces, like just living a normal life. But in terms of going out, nightlife, club scenes, I don't associate with straight bars as much as I possibly can. And my friends know that. They know I'm not coming out to the fucking club to see some fucking dudes. No, I'm actually so good off that. Especially when I first got to Madrid, because obviously the girls that I was living with, going out is definitely very prevalent, and I made it pretty known. I was like, listen, if you're going to a queer bar, invite me, let's go, let's have so much fun. Or a queer event. It doesn't even need to be a bar or anything, but I love a dance party night or just anything gay. I will go out of my way to be in a gay space, okay? So, oh my God, that is the freaking longest winded way to say the reason I wanted to go to so many Fletcher shows was because when I went in Madrid, oh my God, it's just a stadium full of queer women. It's literally thousands and thousands of queer women in a space having so much fun, scream singing the lyrics, feeling every feeling, fucking making out, holding hands, kissing, literally queer love, lesbian love is so beautiful to me. I love seeing girls holding hands and kissing and just feeling comfortable. I have chills right now, honestly, thinking about it, how happy it makes me to see lesbians just living their life, and as a straight couple would, a gay couple just feeling comfortable enough to do PDA or just whatever. I think that's so special. And so when I was at the Madrid show, realizing how many couples were there and just how many girls felt so safe to be at the show, it just it resonated so strongly with me. So I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna put myself in as many of these spaces as I possibly can. And I took that very serious because I I booked the trip not long after, and I was like, fuck it, I'm going. So yeah, basically, not only was it so amazing to go on a solo trip and to see all these different cities, but it was like I kind of got a glimpse into the pockets of the queer communities in these cities, which was so cool. Like, it was just so amazing to see, first of all, how many queer women there are, because there's thousands of queer women across this globe. And it was so cool to just like be in those spaces. And even if it was just for a night, like, you know, really just feeling like, wow, like there's so many women like me, so many beautiful women, so many like just girls who are like happy to be queer, and just like happy to be in this safe space, you know? And of course, there's not only queer women at these events. Of course, there's a lot of gay men too, queer men. Like, I would say all individuals are obviously welcome in this space. I did see you know, girls with their boyfriends too, but I would say literally 99% of the population at the Fletcher shows is queer women. So being in those spaces just feels super safe to me and super special. So the fact that I got to basically go on a global world tour of different queer women communities, pretty iconic to say the least. Okay, so after Madrid, my next stop was Stockholm, Sweden, which I was so excited to go to Stockholm because I've just heard that it's like a very queer friendly city. So that was the first stop on my little trip. Actually, I did go to Oslo, Norway first, spent one day there, and then I went to Stockholm, Sweden. And I have to say, I loved Stockholm, super beautiful. I kind of stayed in like the old town area, which I guess could be like a little more touristy now that once I left the old town area, I realized, I was like, oh, okay, there's way more to Stockholm than I was, you know, originally thinking. And the cool part about going to the different theaters too was like I got to see kind of like, you know, different venues and different spaces in the cities too. So I didn't just stay in the city centers. I kind of like, you know, got to see where people would go to a show like this in their city. So what was funny about Stockholm too was I was there for 2 nights, and the first night I actually went to a gay bar. I can't remember the name of it. If I can find the name, I'll put it on the screen. But okay, I had a fun time at this gay bar, but let me tell you, the amount of men at this bar that were preying on the women there. Like, the amount of men that came up to me being like, oh, are you gay or are you bi? Like, do you swing this way, da da da. I was like, leave me the fuck alone. Like, literally, I do not go to a gay bar so that a man can talk to me. Like, I'm sorry, like, I will literally invoice you for my time. Like, do not, like, when I'm at a gay bar, if a man comes up to me, he better be, you know, not straight, okay? The amount of straight men that came up to me, I honestly felt really uncomfortable. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I almost left multiple times because the men were making me really, really uncomfortable, but whatever. What can I do? I just stayed and had a good time. I ended up meeting these 2 girls who were nice, and I just danced with them the rest of the night. But as far as that gay club experience, very interesting. Not sure I would go back due to the population, but whatever. It was fun. That show also, the Fletcher show there, was really cool because the venue was tiny. Like, when I tell you, it was definitely by far the smallest venue I went to, which was cool because it was like very intimate show, okay? It was hot in there, it was sweaty, but I actually met a girl who was standing in front of me in line. She was super sweet. She invited me to hang with her and her friends, so I ended up hanging out with them. And, you know, the best part about this was, obviously I went to all these shows by myself. Like, I, you know, solo tour. And I definitely was a little nervous to do that, but I go out by myself all the time. I'm very comfortable by myself, and I have no expectations when I go out. Like, honestly, it's great if I meet people. Like, you know, I always enjoy meeting other people when I go out solo, but it's never really my intention to meet other people. Like, I'm always okay if I just hang out by myself, you know? It's always a bonus for sure if I meet other people, because obviously it's more fun to just like talk to others and meet new people, but I'm totally cool if it's like just a solo night, you know? So anyway, so I was lucky that this girl was super nice to me and invited me to hang with her friends. Her friends were cool too. It was nice. It was cool to see, like, you know, like I said, it was just awesome to experience different groups of queer women across the globe. So the Stockholm show was really special just because it was so small and intimate. And that was the first night that Fletcher wore her white dress. And I just, well, not the first night, but the first night that I saw that she wore the white dress. And I loved seeing all her different outfits. So in Madrid, she was wearing her black trousers and black vest outfit, which was so cute. She was serving like such little mask vibes. But then the white dress was super pretty on her, like still cool girl, but like very femme Carrie. Like it was really cute. And her curly hair, like she just looked amazing. That show was awesome. Really just left like so happy. And just so excited to live my life, you know? Then the next stop, after I left Stockholm, I went to, oh my God, why can't I remember? Where did I go after Stockholm? I think I went to Helsinki. Where did I go after Stockholm? No. Yeah? Okay, it doesn't matter where I went. It's late. It's literally midnight when I'm recording this, so I can't remember exactly what I did. But the next show that I saw Fletcher at was her Copenhagen show. And this is what's funny. I actually, you know, I thought I planned this trip so well. I actually did such a bad job because I could have seen her again in Norway, but I went to Norway a day early. Like I should have gone to Stockholm and then Norway, and I would have been able to see Fletcher again. But I went to Norway first, not realizing that she was going to be in Norway. So my dodo head really actually did a poor job planning, but it's fine. So I didn't even realize that she was going to be in Copenhagen the day that I was in Copenhagen, which was so lucky. So as I was leaving the Stockholm show, I'm on Ticketmaster, literally buying my ticket to the Copenhagen show. When I already had my ticket to the Berlin show. But I was like, oh my God, like I can't even believe that I didn't realize that I was going to be in Copenhagen on the same day. So that was kind of like a bonus show, which was great. So I went to the Copenhagen show. That venue was definitely larger, not the largest, but way bigger than the Stockholm show. I would say pretty comparable to the Madrid show. The crowd was wild at the Copenhagen show. It really was. Definitely loved it, definitely enjoyed it, had a grand old time, was drinking, discovered that I like Red Bull and vodka at these shows because I was so tired from traveling. I had to get my energy up. So I was literally drinking Red Bull and vodka at these shows. Probably why I had such a good time. And then after Copenhagen, I went to Berlin, which I have to say, out of all of the shows I've been to, Berlin was super special. Like first of all, I kind of fell in love with Berlin. I did not know what to expect about Berlin, but I just had the best day, like the best time in Berlin. I got there and the show was that night, so I didn't do a ton of exploring. Well, I kind of like explored that whole first day that I got there. And then the next day after the show, I basically had the most like accidental best day of my life. Like I was walking, my flight was that evening, the day after the show. So my only plan was like, okay, I'm just gonna finish my audio tour and, you know, grab something to eat. So as I'm walking to find something to eat, I pass this like food market. I'm like, oh, perfect. Let me go in there, you know, I'll grab something to eat. I walk in, there's this sign, huge sign that says queer market today. I was like, huh? Like, queer market? What do you mean? And it was like one of those like time and place. I just like happened to be in the perfect place at the perfect time because I walked in and there was this whole marketplace happening of different queer small businesses, like small queer owned businesses, like artists and designers and jewelry, and there were drag queens there. Like it was this whole marketplace literally called the queer market. And I was like, did I just accidentally walk into like my dream day? So I got my food and I walked around and I looked at all the different vendors. I literally ended up getting a tattoo, okay? I can show the people on YouTube. I got a tattoo because there were tattoo artists and tooth gems people there. And I was like, fuck it, I'm getting a tattoo to remember my time in Berlin. And it was a stick and poke tattoo. And it was these two girlfriends who own this tattoo parlor or tattoo studio. And it was just the best because I'd been wanting to get a tattoo and I'd been wanting to get a queer tattoo. So I got my queer tattoo. And it was just like one of those days where I was like, wow, right place at the right time. Like, it was so awesome. And I got there at the perfect time too, because by the time I left, I had been there for a couple hours. By the time I left, there was a line, I'm kidding you, a mile long out the door. So I was like, wow. And when I had first got there, there was barely anyone there. So it was just right place, right time. So that's why I think Berlin was so special to me, was like, I just happened to have this like amazing queer experience. And again, like, I just didn't really realize how gay Berlin is. Like, there is a lot of queer people there. And I learned that especially at the Fletcher show because, oh my gosh, first of all, the venue was massive. Like, I know that the London shows were the biggest, but I kid you not, the Berlin felt like the biggest. Like, I truly feel like I felt like there were more people at the Berlin show. Like, just like a massive, massive venue full of queer women. And it was just like literally incredible. Also, that was the first night that I was sitting in like the seats. I didn't have a standing ticket. So the other nights I had, you know, as just like a general admission standing ticket. Berlin was the first night that I had a seated ticket, and I was quite literally the last row in the very back, which was fine because I got, you know, I just bought whatever single ticket was available. And it was actually great because the other girls in my row were also all there by themselves. Like, they had also just bought single tickets. So that was really nice because then I just kind of like got to talk to them, and they were really cool. But it was really also cool to be able to like see it from the very back because I could see the entire venue. I could see the whole show from a new perspective. Like, it was very cool. And whoever organized this, the people standing in the general admission, they brought balloons. So at the last song of the night, they all blew up different colored balloons, and it looked like this rainbow of balloons. And it was just so pretty to see and like so cool. And Carrie was like, oh my God, I feel like it's my birthday. Like, it was just really, really cute, like, that they did that. And it just was like, I left feeling so happy, like so just like good, and just like excited to be in the queer community. So yeah, Berlin really took it for me. I would love to go back to Berlin one day. I was trying to find like a lesbian bar to go to, but I was so tired, and also like, I don't know, I was by myself. I was just like, let me just leave the note on high, you know? But one day when I have a wife, we're gonna go back to Berlin together because I just seriously had the best time and I really want to go back. And I want to explore Germany more in general. Like, I really feel like there's so much to see. So Berlin was the last show on that leg of the tour. I almost decided to go to her Vienna shows and her Munich, I think was the next one. I can't remember. Oh, Prague. Okay, that's what it was. There was a show in Prague, there was a show in Vienna, and I really wanted to go. And I would have, like, I think I actually booked one of the tickets. But the weather was so awful. Like, it had been raining and freezing the entire day, the entire time of my 10-day solo trip. So by the last day, I was like, all right, like, as much as I would love to keep traveling, keep seeing Carrie, also just, you know, yes, I was following Fletcher on tour, but also I was exploring all of these cities. So for 10 days straight, I was go. I was walking like 20,000 steps a day, which like is what you have to do, you know, when you're in Europe. Like, you got to see shit, you know. I don't know if I'm ever going to be in these cities again. So I had to just go for it. But I was exhausted basically by the 10th day. So I ultimately decided, all right, it's time to wrap this up. As much as I would love to keep going, I'm gonna go back to Madrid. So I went back to Madrid for like a week and then I went on a trip with some of my friends to the south of Spain, which was so nice. But basically, I originally was planning to stay in Madrid through the end of June, but due to just some like work experience, some like work obligations, and some also just like some family things, I actually decided to leave Madrid earlier than planned. So I'm actually leaving at the end of May, which is totally fine, honestly. Like, I'm excited to go back. I'm excited to go back to the US, low-key. But because I decided to leave early, that meant that, you know, I had less time to do all of the traveling that I wanted to do. And I knew I still had a couple of cities on my bucket list, which included Dublin. Dublin was probably like the main one on my bucket list, because I did get to go to London already back in March, but I love London. If you didn't know, yeah, London is a very special place to me because I actually studied abroad in London during my undergrad. So back in 2017, I spent the summer in London and I just loved it. Like, I literally had the best time. That was my first ever, like, you know, solo time abroad for an extended period of time. And that truly probably changed me as a person. Like, it's something that's super special to me that I did, and I'm so glad I got to do that. And it's definitely just inspired the whole rest of my life and like my love for travel. I've always loved to travel, but having that, you know, study abroad experience really just like set it home for me, you know? So basically, I had not gone back to London since 2017, so I had been dying to go back. So me and my best friend went back in March, which was so amazing. I'm so glad we got to go. But when I saw that Fletcher was going to be in London, I was like, fuck it, I will go again. So this trip, I really wanted to also go to Portugal. Portugal was majorly on my list. So I went to Lisbon and then I went to Porto, which I loved Lisbon. Like, I was so surprised because obviously I knew it was going to be beautiful, but you know, I kind of go to these cities like on a whim. Like, I don't do too much research. I just kind of like go for it and see what happens. I usually do an audio tour just to like, you know, see what you need to see, and then you look on TikTok to figure out what else I want to do. But I'm very lax when it comes to traveling. Like, I don't need a full itinerary. I kind of just prefer to like see what comes, you know? So in Lisbon, I just had the best time exploring. It is such a beautiful place. And I watched the sunset. Like, it was just so awesome. And then Porto was amazing too. It was super beautiful. So the start of my trip was great. And then from there, I spent 2 days in Brighton, which also is a super special place to me. I got to do a day trip to Brighton when I studied abroad in London. And it was just super special to me too, because back in 2017, like, I still was very fresh in my grief process. If you don't know, my dad actually passed away in 2016, so when I was a freshman in college, and losing him was obviously very traumatic. But I think going to London that next summer like was very healing for me, and really special to me, you know, that I got to do that, because that's something that him and I always talked about me doing. So yeah, basically that day in 2017 that I went to Brighton, I just remember the whole day walking around, like, just thinking about my dad. And honestly, like, whenever I do solo travel, like, I think about my dad pretty much the whole time. Like, it's like bittersweet, you know, because I'm thinking about him because I love him and I wish he was here and I want to talk to him, but you know, it does make me really emotional. So when I was in Porto, like, I had a really just like grief moment, you know, watching the sunset of just like, wow, like, this is so amazing and I love this life and I love my life so much. I'm so lucky. And I just truly wish that I could pick up the phone and call my dad and tell him, you know, how much I love this life. So yeah, basically my whole trip, I've really been thinking about my dad a lot. And actually it was really cute these last 2 nights in London and in Dublin. Fletcher's parents and her family has been at the show, and it's just so cute to see her parents, you know, so proud of her. Like, you can just see on their faces, like, because literally, like, they're just sitting in the crowd. Like, I've been able to see them at the shows, and they're just so proud of her. And I honestly got a little teary-eyed tonight at the Dublin show, just like thinking about how special it is. I'm not sure exactly how old Fletcher is. I think she's a couple years older than me. I think she's probably like maybe late 20s, early 30s, but just like how special it is that she's this huge artist. Like, she's just come up so much these last few years, and the fact that her parents like get to see her on tour like this, like, that is so special. Like, I am so happy for her. Like, I'm so, like, I literally was getting teary-eyed thinking about how proud I am of her for them, you know, which is like so silly. But you know, I think when you lose a parent when you're young, you like really learn to appreciate like what it means to have your parents around. You know, thank God I still have my mom, but losing my dad when I was 18, like, that changed me forever. So a lot of what I do in terms of like traveling the world and like seeing what and like doing things and not holding myself back, like that's, you know, for my dad. That's to honor my dad. And so seeing Fletcher's family at her show, like really just, it made me connect with her more. Like, wow, like this is just, you know, Fletcher is just a girl. Like she's literally just a girl. Like she's just a girl with a dream and like an artist and a singer. Like she just loves, you know, music is her passion, clearly. And she's been fortunate enough to like just like have such an authentic voice, and like, you know, she shares that with the world, and like the world has received her so well. Like she's really she's really found her audience, and I just think that's so special that her parents get to see that. So yeah, I really was like getting teary-eyed in the show, like feeling proud of her for them. Like I'm just so proud of her. I really am. And I'm proud of myself. Like honestly, I will say something about solo traveling has made my confidence like skyrocket. Like I have felt so confident about myself on these trips, because it's like I'm just here by myself. Like I'm here doing what I want to do because I want to do it. Like everything I've done on these trips is like because I want to do it, you know? Like I have no one telling me what I need to do or no one I have to consider. Like it's literally just me. And there's something about doing that just like really makes your confidence skyrocket. So in case I wasn't a confident bitch before, I feel like these solo trips have really just like brought it home for me. So yeah, if you're struggling with your confidence, maybe go on a solo trip, because when you have to figure out your airport transfers and where to stay and how to be safe and all of that, like you know, you feel really good about yourself because you're able to do all that. So also like just the feeling of like being in a new city by myself where like literally no one knows who I am, like there's something kind of comforting about that. Like I'm just doing me. Like I'm the only one here who knows me. So what does it matter what happens, because no one's gonna notice. So yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, that was kind of a long-winded way of saying I love Fletcher, and I'm so thankful that I got to do this solo European tour with Fletcher. If only Fletcher knew that I went to 8 of her shows. Tomorrow is my 8th show. Honestly, she needs to add me to her payroll at this point. Like, oh, I did want to mention too, like the ticket prices in Europe are so cheap. I don't think I paid more than $30 for any of these tickets. And the prices in the US are like $90. So the reason I also just like had no problem balling out on these tickets was they were literally $30 fucking dollars. So I was like, yeah, that's like one meal practically if you go out to eat at a restaurant. So I will happily spend that on seeing Fletcher. So I could do a whole other episode about like my favorite songs from Fletcher, or, you know, Fletcher's top moments, whatever you want to say. But I think I said everything I wanted to say about the shows. Oh, I guess I'll just mention too, the London shows were so cool because, oh, let me mention this. I had the best time at the London shows because I actually met one of my followers, which is so exciting for me. I literally live to meet y'all. Like, I don't think you understand. Like, when I lived in New York, it would happen pretty frequently where I would meet y'all, and like, oh my god, like it makes me so excited to physically see y'all in person. I remember one time I was leaving Henrietta Hudson and this girl got out of an Uber, and I thought to myself, oh my god, she's so cute, I love her outfit. And she walked over to me and I said to her, I was like, oh my god, I love your outfit. And she goes, oh, I follow you on Instagram, no way. And it was just like such a pure moment. And I love when that happens to me. Like, y'all have no idea how happy that makes me to meet y'all in person. So when I was it was the second night of the the London shows, and I had noticed this girl. I promise you I noticed her. And I was like, oh my god, she's so pretty, she's cute. But like, did I go over and say hi? No. Was I standing there by myself? Yeah. And then I looked at my phone and I get a message from someone being like, oh my god, are you at the Fletcher show right now? And I turn around and I had messaged with this girl before, so I knew what her profile picture looked like. And I was like, oh my god, that's her. And I turned around and she's standing right there. And I was like, oh my god, what are the chances of that? that I literally noticed this girl and then she happens to be my follower. So it was so lucky because then I got to spend the night with her and her friend dancing, literally scream singing. Courtney, if you're listening to this, you're such a sweetheart. I'm so glad we got to meet. Oh, it was so special. Like, I feel like that was like, because like I said, I don't mind going to the shows by myself, but obviously it's so much more fun to have a friend to freaking scream sing with. It's Fletcher. So she was such a sweetheart, so nice, so kind. I'm so glad we got to meet. And it was great. It was so great. Like, it was just the cherry on the cake, really, for me to finally meet one of my followers at the show. Because, again, I went to 8 shows, and I know you gay bitches were there. I just didn't, I didn't run into a bunch of you. So, I know a lot of y'all were at the Berlin show, too, because you messaged me afterward, but we just didn't get a chance to meet. But, yeah, if you happen to ever see me in person, please say hello, because I love to see you. Let's kiss. Anyway, thank y'all so much for listening to 50 minutes of this lovely voice. I'm so excited to get this podcast up and going. I already feel so good. Like, I just feel like this is exactly what I need to be doing right now creatively. Like, this is what I want to do. And I hope you enjoyed it. So let me know what y'all thought about this first solo episode. I would love to have guests on in the future. Right now, I'm assuming it will probably just be me for a little bit because I'm still traveling over the next few weeks and figuring it out. But yeah, the plan is to post at least once a week, new podcast. You can watch it on YouTube as well. Hey, we're gonna up the production quality, I promise you, but yeah, this first episode of my solo tour following Fletcher live from my hotel room in Dublin. So tomorrow I'm going to be in Dublin as well. The next day I go to Glasgow, and then the next day I go to Edinburgh, Scotland, and then I will be back in Madrid for a couple days, and then I have a couple more trips throughout Spain planned. I'm going to a couple different cities in Spain, and then I'm going back to the US. So I'll be... actually, the very last day I'm in Madrid, I'm going to the Eras Tour. So I have just been to so many amazing concerts my time in Madrid. So I will be back in the US on May 30th. So thank y'all so much for listening. I love you endlessly. Thank you so much for helping me spread the gay agenda. Thanks for listening to Likes Girls podcast for the girls who like girls. Give someone a kiss for me. Kiss your girlfriend. Kiss your friends, kiss your partner, kiss your wife. Give them a big smooch just from me. So I love you. Talk to you later.